We all know how important first impressions are, but what many people overlook is how much public behavior speaks about who we are. Sometimes it's not about what you do, it's about what you should never do, because every action in public either adds to your respect or takes away from it. Respect is built on small actions people notice instantly, and the truth is, those actions rarely come with a warning label. Nobody stands in front of you with a sign saying, "This is the moment that matters. Pay attention." Because it's the little choices you make in passing that tell people everything they need to know about you. The way you open a door for someone, the tone of voice you use when speaking to a stranger, whether you acknowledge the person behind the counter or treat them like they don't exist. These are the things that decide if people feel you are someone to admire or someone to avoid. Respect doesn't usually get built in grand gestures or dramatic speeches. It's in the ordinary details that stack up over time, and once people form that impression, it's hard to reverse. You may think no one is noticing, but the reality is everyone notices. They see how you behave when you think it doesn't matter. They hear the impatience in your sigh, they feel the dismissal in your silence, and they catch the careless way you might cut someone off. When people talk about respect, they often imagine it's this heavy, complicated thing you earn through achievement or authority. But the foundation of respect isn't built on titles or success. It's built on consistent patterns of behavior. When you show someone they matter in small ways, they don't forget it. And when you show them the opposite, they don't forget that either. The power of respect comes from repetition. And the problem most people face is they think the big moments are where their character is tested. That's not true. Your character shows up when you're tired, when you're frustrated, when nobody in the room is someone you need to impress, and when the stakes feel so small you could ignore them. It's in those exact moments that your true self leaks out, and that's the version of you people remember. If you've ever been in line at a store and watched someone lose their patience at a cashier, you know exactly how fast your opinion about them shifts. You might have thought they were put together, calm, or even kind, but in that one moment of disrespect, everything changes. And here's the thing, the people around you are forming those silent judgments about you too, not because they're harsh or unfair, but because behavior is the clearest evidence of who you are. You can tell people you're confident, polite, and respectable, but if your actions contradict your words, the actions will win every single time. That's why you can't afford to dismiss the power of the small things. Think about eye contact, posture, and the way you greet people. Those three things alone can completely change the energy you bring into a space. Avoiding eye contact tells people you don't want to connect. Slouched posture tells people you don't care, and a half-hearted greeting makes them feel unimportant. On the other hand, steady eye contact, standing tall, and a genuine hello create respect before you've even said anything else. None of these actions take more than a few seconds, but the impact lasts long after the moment has passed. That's what makes small actions so powerful. They live in people's memory far longer than you think, and they get repeated in conversations you'll never hear. The challenge is we often underestimate how much others are observing. You might think you're invisible when you're scrolling your phone at a table or muttering under your breath in frustration, but people are watching and listening, and they're deciding who you are without you even realizing it. Respect doesn't come from being perfect, but it does come from being consistent, and consistency is built in habits. The small habits of courtesy, kindness, patience, and awareness stack up like bricks, and the more bricks you stack, the stronger your reputation becomes. Ignore those habits, and you'll find the foundation weak, easily shaken by a single careless act. Respect is not a performance. It's not about putting on a mask when it suits you and dropping it when no one is looking. It's a reflection of how you move through the world when you believe no one important is paying attention. The irony is, those are the moments that define you most, because respect isn't something you ask for. It's something you consistently demonstrate in every action that people notice instantly. Poor public behavior can destroy credibility in seconds. And what makes it dangerous is how quickly it happens and how little control you have once it's out there. You can spend years building a reputation, crafting an image of professionalism, kindness, or strength, and then lose it in the blink of an eye because of one careless action in public. It's the kind of thing people replay over and over, the kind of memory that sticks longer than all the good you've done, because human nature tends to cling to the moments that shock, disappoint, or break trust. Think about it. You could be admired for your work ethic, your talent, or your kindness, but the day someone sees you snap at a stranger, disrespect a server, or act entitled in a public space, that's the day the story about you changes. The highlight reel of your positive qualities gets pushed aside by the headline of that one negative action. Credibility is fragile because it isn't owned by you. It lives in the minds of other people. You can influence it, you can shape it, but you don't get to hold it in your hands and protect it. Once people decide your credibility is cracked, you can't force them to unsee it. And in today's world, where everyone has a phone and everyone can record a moment, poor public behavior doesn't just reach the people who were there to witness it, it can spread further than you ever imagined. A single bad decision in public has the power to become the moment that defines you, and the worst part is, you may never know the opportunities you've lost because of it. That's how fast credibility collapses when public behavior slips. What makes this even more challenging is that poor behavior in public often comes from small lapses in self-control. It's usually not a planned decision to act out. It's the frustration that leaks out when you're under stress, the rudeness that shows when you're impatient, or the arrogance that creeps in when you feel like you don't have to try anymore. Those moments don't feel huge to you when they happen, but to the people watching, they feel like proof. Proof that you're not as composed as you seem, proof that your kindness is conditional, proof that your professionalism is just a surface act. And once someone has that proof in their mind, they carry it with them into every future interaction with you. Credibility isn't just about how much you know or how skilled you are, it's about trust, and trust is tied to predictability. People want to believe that you'll act with respect and integrity, not just when it's easy, but when it's hard. They want to feel like they can count on you to carry yourself with consistency, whether you're talking to a CEO or a cashier, whether you're under pressure or relaxed. Poor public behavior tells them the opposite. It tells them that you're only dependable under certain conditions, and that kind of uncertainty is what ruins credibility the fastest. Because when people don't know which version of you they're going to get, they start to question all of you. The reality is, you don't always get to control when credibility is tested, and it usually gets tested when you least expect it. It might be in the middle of traffic when someone cuts you off. It might be at a restaurant when your order is wrong. It might be at work when someone interrupts you. The easy response is to let the frustration spill out, but the long-term cost of that short-term release is credibility. And credibility, once damaged, takes far longer to rebuild than it did to lose. People are far less likely to forgive or forget poor behavior in public because it doesn't just affect them, it affects everyone who witnessed it. One person might forgive you, but the memory is already planted in the minds of the others who saw it, and you can't erase it. That's why guarding your public behavior matters so much. It's not about being perfect, it's about being aware that every moment is a stage where your credibility is either strengthened or weakened. The stage doesn't always look important, but to someone watching, it could be the moment that decides how they see you forever. The danger of poor behavior isn't only in the act itself, it's in the speed at which it travels and the permanence of the impression it leaves. Because credibility doesn't crumble slowly, it often collapses in seconds. The way you carry yourself sets the tone for how others treat you, and this truth shows up in every room you walk into, whether you realize it or not. People are constantly scanning for cues, picking up on your body language, your energy, and your presence before you've even said a single word. It's human instinct to evaluate who is confident, who is approachable, and who demands respect. And that evaluation comes not from long conversations, but from the first few seconds of observation. When you carry yourself with slouched shoulders, hesitant movements, or a lack of awareness, The signal you send is that you don't value yourself enough to take up space, and others respond accordingly. But when you carry yourself with composure, with purpose, and with quiet confidence, people mirror that energy back to you, and suddenly the dynamic of every interaction shifts in your favor. Carrying yourself well is not about arrogance or showing off. It's about creating an atmosphere around you that communicates strength and self-respect. You don't need to dominate a room to set the tone. You just need to show that you know who you are and that you're comfortable in your own skin. The way you walk, the way you stand, the way you use your voice, all of these nonverbal signals speak louder than your words ever could. Think about how quickly people form opinions of a speaker before they open their mouth, or how a leader's presence commands attention even when they haven't spoken yet. That's the power of carrying yourself with intention, and it's a power you use whether you're aware of it or not. The mistake many people make is underestimating how much control they actually have over these signals. They think respect is earned only through achievements or through what they say, but in reality, it's earned just as much through posture, eye contact, and the steadiness of their tone. If you walk into a room looking rushed, flustered, or distracted, people will treat you as someone who doesn't have control. If you avoid eye contact or speak with hesitation, people assume you're unsure of yourself. On the other hand, if you stand tall, move with calmness, and make people feel seen when you speak to them, they instinctively see you as credible, confident, and worth respecting. These are not superficial tricks. They're reflections of how you carry yourself, and how you carry yourself dictates how the world responds to you. Think about the small daily scenarios that shape perception. If you walk into a meeting and immediately check your phone, you've set the tone that your attention is elsewhere, and people will treat you as disengaged. If you walk into that same meeting, greet people, make eye contact, and sit with a posture that shows attentiveness, you've already set a completely different tone before the conversation even starts. If you're standing in line and you look impatient, tapping your foot or rolling your eyes, people sense negativity and tension, and that energy spreads. But if you stand calmly, maybe even acknowledge someone else with a smile, you've set the tone of composure and patience, and people feel safer around you. The truth is, people treat you as a reflection of how you treat yourself. If you carry yourself like you don't matter, they'll believe you. If you carry yourself like you're constantly irritated, they'll avoid you. If you carry yourself with quiet strength, they'll respect you before they even know your story. This doesn't mean you won't face challenges. It means you'll face them with a presence that earns trust and authority rather than doubt and dismissal. And what's most important is that this isn't about pretending, it's about alignment. When you respect yourself enough to be intentional with how you move, speak, and show up, the external world responds with that same level of respect, because the way you carry yourself is the invitation that tells people how to treat you. Self-awareness is the foundation of strong social presence, and without it, you move through the world blind to the signals you're sending and the impressions you're creating. People who lack self-awareness often don't understand why they keep getting negative reactions, why others seem to pull away, or why opportunities don't come their way. The truth is, every action you take in public sends a message, and if you're unaware of how it lands, you'll keep repeating behaviors that chip away at the way people perceive you. Self-awareness is about paying attention not only to what you're doing, but to how it's being received. It's understanding that your words carry weight, your tone shapes meaning, and your body language often says more than the sentences you string together. When you cultivate self-awareness, you gain the ability to notice yourself in real time. You hear the sharpness in your own voice before it escalates. You see the way your crossed arms might come across as defensive. You catch the eye roll before it slips out. That ability to pause and adjust is what separates people who command respect from those who constantly sabotage themselves without realizing it. Because let's be honest, it's rarely the big explosive actions that ruin someone's presence in public. It's the accumulation of small moments where they weren't paying attention, interrupting someone mid-sentence, dominating a conversation without noticing others disengaging, dismissing someone's effort with a careless remark. Those moments leave an impression that lingers long after the interaction ends. A strong social presence isn't about perfection, It's about awareness and adjustment. People don't expect you to always say the right thing or always act flawlessly, but they do notice when you're attuned to the space around you. They notice when you take accountability instead of doubling down, when you read the room before speaking, when you adjust your volume or your posture to match the moment. That kind of awareness makes people feel respected, and in return, they give you their respect. Without self-awareness, you might think you're being confident when you're actually coming across as arrogant. You might believe you're being funny when in reality you're offending someone. You might assume you're being direct when others feel you're being rude. That gap between intention and impact is where credibility erodes, and the only way to close it is through awareness. The people who have the strongest presence in public aren't always the loudest, the most charismatic, or the most polished. They're the ones who understand how they're being received and make sure their energy matches what the moment calls for. They know when to listen more than they speak, they know when to soften their tone, and they know when silence carries more power than words. They don't just walk into a room and perform, they walk in tuned to the dynamics of that space. And because of that, they create a sense of ease and respect around them. That's why self-awareness is such a powerful tool. It allows you to adapt without losing authenticity. Think of how many conflicts in public could be avoided if people paused for just a second to be aware of themselves. An argument in a line, a heated outburst in traffic, a dismissive gesture toward a stranger, all of these are born out of a lack of awareness in the moment. When you're aware, you catch yourself before the behavior escalates, and that single second of awareness protects your reputation, your credibility, and your presence. People aren't just paying attention to what you do when you're at your best, they're noticing how you handle yourself when you're under pressure. Self-awareness makes sure that even in those pressured moments, you show up in a way that reflects strength and composure instead of carelessness. The foundation of strong social presence isn't about memorizing the right moves. It's about knowing yourself well enough to manage the wrong ones before they happen. It's about having the humility to see yourself clearly and the discipline to adjust your behavior in the moment. Because at the end of the day, respect and credibility don't just come from how you intend to act. They come from how others experience you. And the only way to align those two is through self-awareness. Avoiding the wrong moves matters just as much as making the right ones, because people remember mistakes faster than they remember effort. And in public, those mistakes are magnified. You can spend time trying to impress people with your words, with your achievements, or with the way you dress, but none of that will hold if you undercut yourself with careless behavior. The human mind is wired to latch on to negative experiences, which means one wrong move can overshadow 10 right ones. You might have greeted everyone politely, carried yourself with confidence, and said all the right things, but if you lose your patience in front of a stranger or make a thoughtless remark in public, that's what sticks. The danger isn't only in doing something wrong, it's in the fact that you may never get the chance to repair the impression it left. The wrong moves aren't always dramatic or loud. Sometimes they're subtle, small lapses that you don't even think twice about, but others notice immediately. Cutting someone off mid-sentence, speaking too loudly in a quiet place, ignoring basic manners when people are watching, these are moments that make people question your awareness and your respect. And once people begin to doubt those qualities in you, they start adjusting how they treat you. They might pull back, give you less trust, or silently put distance between you and themselves. The right moves build connection, but the wrong ones erode it quietly until you realize too late that respect has slipped away. It's not enough to only focus on doing the positive things. Of course, it's important to be kind, composed, and confident, but it's equally important to avoid the behaviors that send the opposite message. Think of it like building a house. Every right move is like laying down a brick, but every wrong move is like pulling one out. If you don't pay attention to the wrong moves, you'll find yourself working twice as hard to rebuild what you could have protected simply by avoiding those slips. This is why self-control and awareness are so critical in public. They act as guardrails that prevent you from stepping into the kind of behaviors that undo all the good you've been working toward. One of the fastest ways people lose respect is by excusing their wrong moves as unimportant. They think snapping at someone in public doesn't matter because it was a small situation, or they believe speaking rudely was justified because they were stressed. But to the people watching, the reason doesn't matter, only the action does. Excuses don't erase impressions. Every move you make in public is evidence, and people decide who you are based on that evidence. Avoiding wrong moves is about protecting that evidence from being contaminated. It's about making sure that nothing careless, impatient, or disrespectful sneaks in to rewrite the story others have of you. Think of the people you respect most. Chances are it's not only because of the right things they do, but also because of the wrong things they never do. They don't lose their cool in public. They don't belittle others. They don't create unnecessary scenes, and they don't allow their impulses to run unchecked. Their credibility and respect remain intact because they are disciplined enough to avoid the behaviors that would destroy them. That discipline is what creates consistency, and consistency is what makes people trust you. Without it, you might still have moments of being impressive, but they'll always be fragile because one wrong move can undo them in an instant. Avoiding the wrong moves isn't about being perfect or never making mistakes. It's about understanding that mistakes in public carry a different kind of weight. They live longer in people's minds, they spread faster in conversations, and they hold more power over your reputation than the right moves ever will. Protecting your image, your credibility, and your respect is not just about adding good behavior, it's equally about subtracting the careless actions that undo it. Because at the end of the day, people may forget the right things you did, but they rarely forget the wrong ones.